Look at the North American continent in the 1750s. It's an immense, densely forested expanse, broken occasionally by small, isolated settlements clinging to the coast. These 13 colonies operated like entirely separate countries. The agrarian, slave-holding South had little in common with the commercial, Puritan North. They traded differently, prayed differently, and generally harbored deep suspicions about one another. They lacked any real internal cohesion. If you asked a colonist in Virginia what connected them to a colonist in Massachusetts, the answer would be simple: nothing, except for their shared allegiance to a king 3,000 miles across the ocean. So how did a collection of fiercely independent, highly suspicious neighbors manage to band together and fight their own empire? Britain's own strategic blunders provided the external pressure that finally forced these 13 separate interests into a single revolutionary union. The friction starts in the aftermath of the French and Indian War. Britain and its colonial militias had successfully fought to secure the eastern half of the continent, but winning that territory put London severely into debt. To prevent any new, costly conflicts with native populations, the king drew a hard line down the Appalachian Mountains. He declared that no colonist could settle further west. The colonists were furious. They had just fought a brutal war to secure that exact frontier, and now they were geographically penned in by royal decree. Then came the financial squeeze. Since the war had been fought partly on their behalf, Parliament decided the colonies needed to pay new taxes to help cover the national debt. To politicians in London, asking the colonists to chip in seemed perfectly reasonable. But the colonists were accustomed to running their own local affairs, and they deeply resented men an ocean away dictating how they should spend their money. While the financial burden of the Sugar and Stamp Acts was relatively light, the lack of democratic consent sparked the outrage. The colonists argued that since they had no elected voice in Parliament, taxing them was a violation of their inherited rights as British subjects. No taxation without representation became their rallying cry. The resistance burned hottest in Boston, Massachusetts. The city was a hub of independent thinkers who were highly organized and completely unwilling to back down. Protests quickly turned physical. What started as anti-tax riots in 1765 escalated until 1770, when British soldiers fired into a civilian crowd on a Boston street, killing 5 men in what became known as the Boston Massacre. 3 years later, a group of local men boarded a ship in the harbor and dumped over 300 chests of British tea into the water, destroying a massive amount of corporate property. Local political protests had now escalated into targeted economic sabotage. By destroying the tea, Boston backed the British government into a corner where they felt compelled to strike back. Parliament was furious. They abandoned any thought of negotiation and decided to punish Boston severely. The British Navy slammed Boston's port shut, choking off its economy. Worse, London explicitly stripped the entire colony of Massachusetts of its right to govern itself. The logic in London was straightforward. By making a severe example out of Boston, they intended to isolate the troublemakers and intimidate the other 12 colonies into quiet submission. But London misread the room. They treated a brewing continental crisis as a localized disciplinary problem, and that mistake cost them their empire. Instead of isolating Massachusetts, the harsh crackdown terrified everyone else. Leaders across the continent realized that if the Crown could unilaterally erase self-government in Boston, then every other colonial legislature was equally vulnerable. In 1774, 12 deeply divided colonies did something they had never managed before. They sent representatives to the First Continental Congress in Philadelphia, banding together to boycott British goods. By April 1775, the tension snapped. Armed colonial militias and British regulars exchanged fire at Lexington, kicking off open warfare. Yet, bizarrely, the colonists were shooting at the king's soldiers while still claiming to be loyal subjects of the crown. They had stumbled headfirst into a full-scale military conflict against their own government, but they still lacked the ideological framework to actually demand independence. Entering 1776, the colonists were trapped in an intellectual vacuum. They were heavily invested in a war, raising armies and taking casualties, but they had no clear endgame. That January, a writer named Thomas Paine published a pamphlet. As seen on this original title page, common sense was addressed directly to the inhabitants of America, giving the public the exact ideological framework they were missing. He pointed out the logical absurdity of a small island attempting to rule an entire massive continent. And as noted right here on the cover, this radical push was written by an Englishman, drawing on their shared political heritage. This argument swept through the colonies, rapidly swinging public opinion toward a clean break. The representatives met again, and on July 4, 1776, they formally adopted this document, the Declaration of Independence, explicitly cementing the 13 United States of America. The United States was forged when Britain's authoritarian crackdown on Boston backfired, creating the very continental alliance that eventually dismantled the empire.
If this epic, sweeping journey through the dramatic history of the United States sent a chill down your spine, do not forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button to officially join the past portal. We bring the glorious, terrifying, and untold pages of history back to life every single week. Leave a comment down below telling us what intense historical event, ancient mystery, or fallen empire you want our eye to visualize next. Until our next journey through time, step through the portal, stay curious, and never forget the dark, bloody truth of our past.